Hello friends, and welcome to your yoga class. My name is Jenny. This is a core and restore class. So you may want to grab a few props. The core part, we'll be working through some movement, building some strength in the body, and focusing on engaging in the core. Then we settle into a little bit of a restore practice. So it's sometimes nice to have props to support you as we get into stretches that we will hold for a longer time, getting a deeper stretch. So some things that you may want to grab, a block or two. Other things that you can use for a block, you could use a stack of books or something similar to this size and shape. I've also, as a second block option, this is just an old yoga mat that's folded in thirds, wrapped up and taped. So you can kind of use something similar to this as well. Blankets are a nice support. You can use them as cushion. You can use them as a little lift. You could roll them up, use them as a bolster. You're also welcome to grab pillows, bolsters, couch cushions, anything like that you may want to use to support you. So take a moment to gather some props. If you know that you like to practice with them, gather them. If you're not quite sure, maybe have something on handy to grab. We'll just start to jump right into it. So I'll get us nice and settled into a little breathing practice, and I'll talk a little bit about the theme. So find a nice comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you. As you saw, I like to sit up on a block. This gives me a little lift in my booty, helps to tilt the pelvis forward, which allows some more space. I have tighter hips, I have a tight low back, so it just allows for more space for me to find some length and integrity in my spine. So if that helps, take that option. Take your time to settle in, get out any wiggles, and then start to find a nice seated position with some integrity. So using the connection down to your sits bones to find an evenness in your hips so that you have that nice square base, and then stacking the vertebrae up from that so you're sitting nice and tall. You may want to bring in a little engagement in the core, some sort of little structural support there. But we don't want anything rigid. We don't need to be stiff and tight. So kind of relax in the shoulders, relax in the face. So we're sitting with integrity, but nothing rigid. We're welcome to close the eyes. And we're just going to start to focus a little bit on the breath. So just starting to tune into it at first. Just noticing this beautiful everyday process that happens. And start to notice what happens when you notice. In the simple observation of breath, you may have naturally started to deepen it. And go with that. Start to find a little more depth in your breath intentionally. Drawing the breath in and out of the nose. And then we're going to bring a little bit more support in internally. So we're going to be activating what's called Mula Bhanda, or your root lock. So this is one of the 3 locks that we have in our bodies, an energetic lock. And this one is at the root, so it's at the base of the spine. And how you activate it is, there's a few different ways to describe it. It's a lift of the pelvic floor. So maybe imagine, as your pelvis is connected to the earth or through a prop, kind of lifting those muscles upwards. It could also be described as activating the muscles around the perineum. So the muscles that activate when you're either holding in a flow of urine or stopping a flow of urine, or when you're doing a Kegel exercise. So the squeezing of those muscles, that activation there. So take some time to connect to those muscles. The little lift of the pelvic floor, activation of the perineum. And notice how that activation, what awareness that brings up. And maybe what support that brings up. For me, that starts to engage my low core, my low belly. And then allow that support to continue up the spine. And as you breathe, on the inhale, you can press the belly out, creating lung space for the lungs to expand. And on the exhale, drawing the belly in and then hugging the ribs in, starting to find some activation in the core. So even though it appears that we're just sitting here breathing, we've got that Mula Bhanda activation, pelvic floor lifting, core engaging as we exhale. Starting to focus on that connection to center. Noticing, where do you feel centered? Is it more down in the pelvis? Is it in the belly? Is it in the chest? Is it up in the shoulders? Core is not just our abs. Core is literally from the spine all the way up through the crown of the head. Awesome. Work. Continue to breathe. Continue to connect to your Mula Bhanda, to connect to your center. And the theme I want to play with today, I plan on doing a bigger, fuller lesson plan on this, or maybe it turns into, more of a series. But this idea of both and especially in dealing with dealing with emotions. The human mind is so funny. We immediately want to label something as this so that we can put it in a box and then move on to the next. And when it comes to labeling people or labeling our emotions, usually one word isn't enough. If I were to ask you to describe yourself in one word, could you do it? And get the full complexity, the full spectrum of who you are in one word? No. So this idea of both and applied to emotions is being able to sit with seemingly contradicting emotions. Emotions that seem counterproductive, counterintuitive, that seem like they shouldn't be fitting in the same situation. But embracing both and helps to embrace our own complexities, helps to embrace the fact that we are multidimensional, and that we are capable of feeling multiple emotions at once, even though they seem contradicting. I had an incident this week where in teaching one of these classes, I was verbally sexually assaulted through comments, and I went through a big array of emotions, and especially towards the person making the comments. Because not only was I so enraged and so angered by the humiliation of being a victim, and which is again something that I shouldn't feel ashamed of as a victim. But I had a lot of feelings against him, but then part of me felt sorry for him, felt compassion for him, prayed for him to get the help that he needs to work through whatever traumas he has that has brought him to that point in his life to where that is what he needs to do to feel good about himself. So I was trying to sit with these emotions, and it's very hard sometimes to sit with multiple emotions, to feel both and. But know that it is possible. In our political environment right now, it is possible to be patriotic, to be proud of the principles of what our country was built on, the American dream, and be angered and upset and want to fight against the people who have taken that dream and corrupted it with their own power and greed. It's okay to be both angry and patriotic. Those are just two examples of being both and. We can be both tough and soft. We can be both masculine and feminine simultaneously. It's a little bit of what I want to sit with through our practice, kind of let it integrate through our movements in the mind, and just kind of be present to all the emotions that come up, even if they seem contradicting, embracing both and. Continuing to breathe, we'll start to move with the breath. So we're still taking those deep belly breaths. We're activating Mula Bhanda, activating through the core. You could start to bring in a little activation of the muscles in the throat to bring in a little Ujjayi breathing. Beautiful work. Releasing arms alongside the body. We'll just inhale, send the arms out to the side, raise them up towards the sky. Exhale, we'll just take a nice twist over towards the right, letting the arms drape down. Just a little movement through the spine. Inhale, come back up through center, reaching both arms up. Shoulders squared. Exhale, twist nice and gently over to the other side. Inhale, arms back up. We start to come back towards center and just repeat. Exhale, nice twist to the right. The arms we're not using as leverage. The arms are just kind of helping to facilitate a little movement, but nothing aggressive. Twisting to the left. Inhale back up through center. Awesome work. Now we'll come forward through hands and knees. We'll start to set up a tabletop here. So take your time to set this up. Spread out through the hands. Press down into the hands and take a moment to find the positioning for the hands that works for you, that feels best. It can be wider, it could be narrow, fingers could be turned in, turned out, hands could be in front of the shoulders, they could be in line. Toes are pointed, so we're pressing into the tops of the feet. And we've got length in the spine, and find that Mula Bhanda activation. Draw that pelvic floor up, draw that belly in. So we're lengthening through the spine. We've got that same integrity in the spine that we had seated, just taking it into our bridge, not bridge pose, into our hands and knees. Little tabletop here. And then from here, we're going to start to connect to the core. So we'll start to, by extending our right foot out, toes could stay on the ground, or maybe the toes start to hover. Now don't bring the leg any higher than the hip so that we don't drop down into the belly and create any tension in our low back. But really activate through the toes. So they're anywhere between just hovering and maybe they're connected to the ground, slightly hovering, or maybe they come up a little bit higher. Active through the toes, root back through the heel, really fire up through the quad, through the leg. We'll take a nice inhale to lengthen. Exhale, knee towards nose as you round out in the spine, draw the belly in and up. Awesome work. Inhale, re-extend that that leg extends straight out. Exhale, knee towards nose. Round out. Find that core activation. Inhale, re-extend. Exhale, knee towards nose. Awesome work. Here we're going to extend and then bend the knee, heel towards the ceiling, toes flexed. 3 little kicks up. And then exhale, knee towards nose, rounding out, belly drawing in and up. And we'll repeat here. Thigh comes parallel to the ground. Toe is flexed, 3 kicks up. Exhale, knee towards nose, rounding out, building strength in the core, strength in the hip flexor. 1 more round. Inhale, right thigh comes parallel to the ground, 3 little kicks. Exhale, knee towards nose, rounding out. Awesome work. From here, we'll step the foot between the hands. Take your time if you need to use the hand to place the foot there. Staying in a nice low lunge, we'll keep that back knee down and just kind of move forward and back, getting a little movement in the hips and the hip flexors. Finding your breath. Finding what feels good in your body. We may experience a lot of both and emotions in our yoga practice. Might have a love-hate relationship with it. Embrace that. All right, when you're ready, we're just going to start to straighten through that back leg. Walking the hands back, finding little half splits. You could bring in blocks here. That helps you bring the ground closer. And you can kind of play with maybe pointing and flexing through the toe. The body could stay upright, or you could bow forward, creating a little more stretch through that back leg. Or through the back of the leg. There we go. All right. When you're ready, we'll start to bring the weight forward, rebending in that front knee, planting that front foot. We're going to prop the back toes, lift the back knee up so we're coming into a low lunge here. If you want to keep that back knee down, if that felt better for you, feel free to stay there. And again, just find a little movement here, maybe a little more activation. Once again, you could bring in blocks here, stack of books, anything to kind of bring the ground closer. Nice work here. All right, then from here, we're going to shift all the weight forward so that we can bring that back foot up. So we're going to bring that foot to step down. Inhale to a half lift. So hands come to shins, to the thighs, or to a block. And then exhale, we're going to fold it in. Come all the way down. Nice forward fold. You can release through the head, neck, and shoulders. Maybe roll out through the head. You could sway side to side. Just getting a nice stretch through the backs of both legs. Beautiful work. Inhale, half lift, lengthening out through the spine. find that nice length here. Core is engaged. Mula Bhanda engaged. And exhale, fold forward. We're going to plant the hands, step the feet back to a plank pose. Find your plank here. Establish this connection. You're welcome to lower the knees down, but we want to still have that integrity in the spine, that activation of Mula Bhanda, lengthening through the spine, engaging in the core. So whether you're pressing down into the knees to lengthen, pressing the ground away, or rooting back through the heels, pressing down into the tops of the feet as we lengthen through the spine. Belly drawing in, breathe here. This is a challenge. Maybe check in with the wrists, with the hands, make sure that the positioning of the hands feels right. If not, make adjustments. When you're ready, nice and slow, lowering all the way down to the belly. Elbows graze the ribs. Awesome work. Point the toes. Elbows draw back. 3 rounds of little flowing cobra. Inhale, raise the head, chest up, shoulders draw together. Exhale, lower down. 2 more here. Inhale, raise, head and chest up. Exhale, lower down. Last one. Inhale, lift and raise. Exhale, lower. Beautiful work. Inhale, press up through our tabletop. Exhale, send the hips all the way back. Child's pose. Take a few rounds of breath here. If it doesn't feel awesome to have the hips all the way back, keep them raised. Lower the head and chest down. Take a few rounds of breath here. All right, then as you're ready, we're going to take this to the other side. So we'll come back up through our tabletop. Take your time to establish that connection through the hands, through the feet, in the core, lengthening through the spine. Mula Bhanda engaged. Lift through the pelvic floor, activate through the perineum. All right, when you have that integrity in the spine, the support of the core, we're going to extend the left leg back. Again, the toes could stay on the ground. They could hover just a little bit above, or the leg could come parallel to the hips. Again, we don't want to take it higher so that we cause that bend in the pelvis and some compression in the low back. Awesome work. Root back through the heel, engage in the foot so the toes are active, pointing down. Inhale to lengthen through the heel. Exhale, knee towards nose, round out in the spine, belly draws in and up. Inhale, re-extend through that leg. And exhale, knee towards nose. We're still activating root lock. We've got the belly drawing in, ribs hugging in, core is engaged. Last one. Exhale, knee towards nose, round it out. This round, we're taking the kicks up to the sky, so we're extending the leg, thigh parallel to the ground. Bend the knee, heel is flexed. 3 little pulses up. Exhale, knee towards nose, round it out. 2 more. Inhale, we're extending through that leg, knee bent, foot towards the sky, 3 kicks up. Trying to stay squared through the hips. Exhale, knee towards nose. And we've got 1 more here. Inhale, 3 little kicks, working our glutes, working our hamstrings, stretching through the hip flexors. Exhale, round it out, engaging in the core, activating hip flexors. From here, we're stepping the foot between the hands. So you're welcome to use the hand to bring the foot forward. Setting up a nice low lunge here. So again, just taking some time to move through the hips, feel a little bit more into the hip flexor, into the quad. You can bring in blocks here to bring the ground closer. Finding your breath, and then we'll take our half split. So we'll start to send the hips back as we straighten through that front leg. You can bring the blocks with you if you're using them. And then here, I like to point and flex through the toes, just kind of exploring this stretch here. The chest could stay raised, or you could bow it forward, which brings in a little more intensity to that stretch. Awesome work. When you're ready, rebending in that front knee as we plant the foot. Now we're either going to stay here or prop the back toes, lift the back knee, come through high lunge. And again, just take some time to feel into this, finding that length, that opening. Maybe the hands come to blocks. We've still got nice length in the spine. All right, then we're stepping that back foot forward, so shifting the weight, stepping towards our forward fold. Inhaling, half lift, lengthening through the spine, extending out. And then as you feel ready, exhale, lower down. Head and neck hang heavy. Again, you can sway side to side, whatever feels right for you. About 3 rounds of breath here. If it feels good to pedal through the feet. Maybe grab opposite elbows and sway. All right, so from here, we'll take our half lift, hands to the shins or to the thighs as we extend out through the spine. And just like we had in our tabletop, find that integrity here. So we've got length out through the spine, but Mula Bhanda is activating, so pelvic floor is lifting. The spine is extending, belly drawing in, ribs hug in, lengthening out through the crown of the head. Shoulders are wrapped onto the back so that we're not rounding out in the upper back. But we've got that nice support there. Again, hands to shins, thighs, or blocks. All right, now we're gonna keep working with this integrity, this length in the spine. We're gonna come into a chair pose. So we're gonna bend the knees, and the chest can start to lift. And the hands can do whatever they'd like. They could come to the thighs, the hips, prayer, extend, reach overhead. Now we are working with that length in the spine. If you want to bring in a little back bending, finding a little more opening in the chest, a little more arching in the back, feel free to do that, or maintain that length in the spine, kind of hovering the chest a little bit more. Bend the knees as little or as much as you'd like. You're welcome to be up here in your chair or all the way down, whatever feels right for you. But again, we're working on that lengthening through the spine, engaging through that Mula Bhanda, lift pelvic floor up, engage in the core. All right. From our chair pose here, you're welcome to stay here. This is building up strength in our legs, in our core, in our spine. If you want a little more, inhale. Reach the arms forward, up and back. Or I guess not back, just forward and up. Exhale, send the hands back. Shoulder blades pinch together, chest comes forward. All right, inhale, arms come forward. Exhale, arms come back. So you can just work with the arms here if you'd like. If you want to add a little bit more, inhale, arms forward. Exhale, as you send the arms back, opening through the chest, maybe the heels raise up. Coming up onto the balls of the feet. And then exhale, heels lower as arms come forward. Inhale, chest forward. Hands go back again, maybe heels lift. And exhale, heels lower, arms come forward. So explore this a few more times. Maybe it's just the movement through the arms, focusing on that length through the spine, strengthening of the core. Maybe you're adding that little bit of balance and leg strengthening by raising the heels. Beautiful work. Feeling those quads yet? All right, one more. Arms go back, chest shines forward, maybe heels lift. And exhale, arms come forward. And release down, forward fold. Awesome work. Maybe shake out through the legs, maybe a little swing side to side. Find your breath. All right, now we're going to take it a little bit further. If you liked what we were just doing and want to keep building strength that way, feel free to stay with that. If you want to go a little further, and again, I'll continue to give options so you find what works best for you. These aren't beginning, intermediate, advanced, nothing like that. Just find what feels good. All right, so we're coming back up to our chair pose. Let's inhale to a half lift. Nice exhale here. And then inhale, raise up to chair. So however you'd like, the arms, whatever works for you. All right, we're gonna bring in some strengthening of the core and of the hip flexors. So whatever hands want to be doing, let them do it. And then we're going to draw the right knee up towards the chest in our chair. And down. Just 3, and then switch it out. Left. 3 up. And down. Switch it out. Knee comes in towards chest. And down. And again. So this is kind of similar to what we're doing on hands and knees, just standing up. Okay, one more on each side, and then we'll add on if you want it. Okay, now, you're welcome to just continue with those knee lifts, 3 at a time, switching out. We're going to add on a little bit more if you want to play with a little more with the balance, and maybe getting into a warrior 3. Now we want to maintain this integrity in the spine, the engagement of the Mula Bhanda, the engagement of the core. Hands do whatever for counter stretch, and just take it to whatever expression the pose reaches in your body. Doesn't matter if it looks like mine, it shouldn't look like mine. Make it your own. All right. So starting with the right knee, 3 lifts up. And then if you want, without bringing that foot to the ground, start to send the foot back and simultaneously letting the chest come forward to whatever version of warrior 3 you'd like. Maybe the foot comes back, arms extend. Maybe this is where you stay. Maybe you teeter-totter a little more forward. Anywhere in your 3rd warrior expression. And then we're going to come back. Knee draws up. And exhale, send it back, finding your warrior 3. We're only here for however rounds of breath feel good for you. Coming back through. 3 lifts of the knee. And send it back, warrior 3. Every expression comes through. And for good measure, let's just do one more. 3 lifts through that leg. And send it back. Warrior 3. All right, now we're not quite done balancing on that left leg. We're going to come back through. Right knee raises. We're going to take a figure 4, balancing figure 4. So that right knee crosses over the left, opening up through that right knee. Maybe you stand up straight, hands can do whatever they want. Maybe you start to, once you find your balance, maybe you start to lower down into a one-legged chair, let's call it. One-legged chair with a figure 4. Ooh. Rooting down towards your stabilizing foot. Beautiful work. This is a challenge. I'm sweating. All right. Nice work. On your next inhale, come to standing, reach the arms up, uncross through the knee. Knee reaches up. Last round, we're setting that foot back. Once again, through our warrior 3. This time, trying to not use momentum, step the foot back, land in your, in your lunge. See, balance is something that, it's not something you attain and you always have. Something you gotta keep working with. Sometimes it'll connect, sometimes it's a little more of a challenge. Awesome, we're in this lunge. Inhale to reach up. Exhale, release down. Beautiful work. Pull the left foot back. We're coming through plank or lowering the knees to half plank. A few rounds of breath here, connecting the core. Draw that belly in. Lift Mula Bhanda up. Find that root lock. Deep inhale here. Exhale, lower all the way down to the belly. 3 rounds of cobra. Point the toes. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower. Inhale up, shoulder blades draw back, heart shines forward. Exhale, lower. One more, inhale up. And exhale, lower. Beautiful work. Inhale, press back up through tabletop. Exhale, send the hips back, child's pose. A few rounds of breath here. Opening up through the back side of the body. I'm going to grab some water. Feel free to do the same. Catch our breath, work on the other side, and get to restore. what feelings are coming up for you? Are you maybe experiencing some both and? Are you experiencing it against me? Maybe you're like, yeah, Jenny, I kind of like you, but after that, I don't like you so much. Just feel anything that comes up, even if they feel contradicting. Be both and. We are not limited to one thing, we are limitless. We don't need to be defined by one thing. We don't need to define our emotions by one emotion. We are multidimensional. Embrace that. All right, child's pose, here we go. We are inhaling to come up through our tabletop. And from here, let's walk the hands forward, coming back through a plank pose. Awesome. Find your plank. And from plank, when you're ready, lift the hips, downward dog. I just realized this is our first downward dog for today. Not that for it to be a yoga practice, you have to do a downward dog. But it's an awesome pose. It feels really good. So take some time to fill into it, maybe pedal through the feet. Awesome work. All right, from here, inhale, look up at the hands and then hop, step, jump, dance, skip your way to the front, however you want to get there. Inhale, halfway lift. Find that length in the spine. Find that belly drawing in, core engaged, ribs hugging in. Find that activation of Mula Bhanda. Lift through the pelvic floor, engage the muscles in the perineum. Full support from the core here. One more deep inhale. Exhale, bend the knees, lower the hips, arms, do whatever to come into your chair pose. Maybe arms extend, they can come into goal pose, they can come into prayer, they can come to the hips. Fantastic work. Again, the knees can be bent as much or as little as they'd like. This is chair, this is chair. Everything in between is chair. Awesome work. You hear lots of different cues in chair. Toes together, heels out, feet together, all the things. Play around. Find what works best for you. Okay. From here, we're adding the arms. Inhale, arms come forward. Biceps by the ears. Exhale, arms swing back, chest comes forward, shoulder blades draw together. Awesome work. Stay just with the arms or add the raise of the heels. Inhale, arms forward. Exhale as arms come back, heels lift. Just an option, maybe you just play with one. Maybe that round, the right heel lifted. Inhale, arms forward. Exhale back, maybe just left heel or both heels lift. Inhale, arms come forward. Exhale, flying chair. Let's do one more. Inhale, come forward. Maybe the heels lift. And exhale, release. Beautiful work. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, forward fold. Release through the back. Release through the head and the neck. Maybe shake out through the legs. If you want to take a break, grab some water. Feel free. When you're ready, we're going to come back and we're going to find those little knee crunches. So, inhale, half lift. Find that length. Find engagement first before we find movement. Draw that pelvic floor up. Engage perineum. Find that connection to Mula Bhanda. Belly drawing in and up. Core engage. Lengthen through the spine. Shoulder blades wrapping onto the back. All right. Inhale. Coming up to chair. Hands again doing whatever you like. Nice exhale here. We're going to lift that left knee up 3 pulses and set down. Switch it out. Right knee up, 3 pulses and down. Left knee up and down. Right knee, and maybe it's just the heel lifting off the ground. The foot doesn't even need to come off the ground if you want a little extra stability there. Last round, right knee or foot raises, and down, and left. Actually, we started with the left, so we'll do one more on the right. And then that'll finish that round. Okay, back in our chair pose. We're gonna bring those left knee lifts, and then back to whatever version of Warrior 3 you'd like to take. And we're working with that integrity in the spine, the engagement of Mula Bhanda, engagement in the core, support from all the muscles along the spine. All right, so we've got left knee up, and then sending it back. Again, maybe hands extend, maybe that toe finds the ground. This could be where you're working on Warrior 3. Come back, 3 knees, and extend back, Warrior 3. Maybe you want to take it a little further. Maybe the chest starts to hover. Maybe the foot starts to raise. Couple rounds of breath. Come back through your chair. 3 pulses with that knee. And back to whatever your Warrior 3 looks like. Again, hands can be doing whatever they'd like. Leg could be extending high, as low as you'd like. One more round for good measure. Awesome work. All right, from here, from our Warrior 3, we're stepping that foot back. So we're in our nice low lunge. You did it. Inhale to lengthen up. Exhale, release the hands down. Frame the foot, pull that right foot back. We're coming through plank pose. Beautiful work. One last chaturanga if you want it. Knees could be raised or lowered. On an exhale. Lower down, all the way down to the belly. Point the toes. Shoulders draw together. Inhale, 3 rounds of cobra up. And exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Last one. Inhale up. And exhale, release all the way down. Oh, turn onto one cheek. Release the arms alongside the body. Maybe find a little shimmy in the hips. You could bend the knees, take them side to side. Oh, you can feel your heartbeat into the earth. You can feel the rise and fall of the belly as you breathe. Turn onto the other cheek. Oh. Just allow the body to fully relax, fully release to the earth. Fantastic work. Feel free to stay here if this feels awesome. Feels really good. Or we'll meet in a child's pose. So when you feel ready, planting the hands, pressing up through our tabletop, sending hips back, coming into child's pose. If you do like to use props, or if you want to use props in your child's pose, feel free. A few ways that you could do that. If you want to get a little more stretch into the shoulders and the chest, you could bring in a bolster or a block to raise the arms up, creating a little more space so that you have more to drop down into. That's how to get a little more in the upper body with some support. If you have a big cushion or a bolster, I did not bring my bolster today, or a big blanket, you could put it, so that you're lying down on it and it brings you support. If it's a little too intense to have the knees this bent, you could have the hips raised in a puppy pose as you come down. You could also grab a blanket, a second yoga mat, roll that up. You could even use a bolster or cushion just to add a little cushion behind the knee. So if you do want to send the hips back, you got a little extra support and love there. Opening up. And the arms don't have to be extended overhead. If you want to get a stretch in the triceps and in the shoulders, you could walk the elbows forward and then bring the hands up to prayer, or reverse prayer, or grab opposite shoulders. Arms could even come alongside the body. They could reach back for the heels. So find what works for you. Opening up through the back side of the body, and we're releasing Mula Bhanda here. Just take a moment with that released Mula Bhanda to just kind of check in that area, to check in with that root lock, to see if through that activation anything came up for you. A couple more rounds of breath here. Excuse me. Beautiful work. As you feel ready, we'll start to come up and out of our child's pose. And feel free to take any movements that would feel good here. From hands and knees, maybe some cat-cow, working through some spinal articulation, rounding out and opening up. Maybe some circles through the hips would feel good, or circles through the torso. And as you feel ready, we'll come forward through a seat. And have some space back behind you to lie down. You can spread out the feet a little wider than hip distance, knees bent, grabbing onto your knees. Let's just take a few rounds of seated cat-cow, just because it feels good. Inhale to open through the chest, gaze could lift, heart shines forward, exhale to round it out. Few more rounds like that. And when you feel ready, we're going to take this all the way down to the ground. So as you find yourself rounding out, slowly start to roll your way down. All the way down to the ground. And when you get there, we're going to keep the knees bent, but you're going to want to walk the feet in so that they're about hip distance and that they're parallel. Walking the heels in towards the glutes, we're going to set up for a bridge pose. Now, let's build up this activation. So we're going to press down into the feet. Lift up through the toes. Root down through the heels, through the pads of the feet, shin bones shining, but kind of pushing forward, and then set the toes down. So we've got this activation in the feet and in the legs. Then in the upper body, we're going to lift through the chest. So we're exaggerating that curvature of the spine and tuck the shoulders underneath. So this gives us a little stretch in the spine, but also gives our low back some support too from the thoracic spine. All right, arms alongside the body, pressing into the feet, knees in line. When you're ready, press into the feet, start to lift the hips up to a bridge pose. And exhale, lower down. Maybe take a few rounds of this, and then we'll settle into a supported bridge. So inhale to lift. And notice that I've still got that arch in my back, and I maintain that on the exhale as I lower just my hips. So I don't lower the hips and then collapse my chest. My chest is still lifted and activated to help me get that arching as I lift the hips up and lower the hips back down. All right, then when you're ready, we'll take this into a supported bridge. So with the hips lifted, grabbing either a block, a bolster, a cushion, a pillow, or a combination of all of those things. Anything that will simply get the hips above the heart, so we don't have to go very far. Block kind of gives you some different options for height. If you really want to work on deeper back bending, you can. I don't do that, so he's not in this pose. So yeah, we just kind of want to get that lift in the hips, but have enough support to where we can kind of release around it. So we can not only get a nice stretch in the back with this arching, but a little stretch for the hip flexors too. We did a lot of work there. You can stay here. Arms could be alongside the body. They could, turn out into a T. If you're wanting to give the hip flexors maybe a little more sensation, if that's something that it seems like they might be searching for, then you can kind of start to walk the feet out. I'd suggest maybe just starting one at a time, or maybe nice and slow. And eventually, maybe one of those legs could stretch out, and that's you can notice that's just going to start to stretch out that hip flexor a little bit more. But along with that, as you stretch out the legs, it's going to be a little more intense on the back, a little more into that back bend. So stay in tune with that. Maybe you just extend one leg at a time. Maybe eventually both legs extend if that feels good for you. I don't often do that, but I know for some people it feels really good. I have low back issues, so I don't really do a lot of that. But yeah, feel into this. Take a few rounds of breath here. Feel free to adjust too. If this is a little too intense, it's starting to feel a little intense for me, so I'm just going to lower it down a level. Don't ever feel like you have to pigeonhole yourself into a pose. Even if you feel like you've committed to what you're doing, uncommit. You can you can always undo what you've done in the pose. And that's important to remember, because we're not trying to fit our body into the conformity of yoga. We don't have to adjust ourselves to fit the yoga mold. We get to create the yoga mold. That's what's so great about yoga. And it gets kind of lost in westernized yoga, thinking, we all have our own ideas of what yoga is. And some of those ideas aren't necessarily based in philosophy. They're based more in the westernized desire to capitalize on yoga. And so it's important to me as a teacher to make sure that you guys are embracing your differences. You are embracing your otherness. You are embracing both, and you are embracing everything about you. And allowing that to guide your yoga practice. Allowing your connection to your mind-body to guide your yoga practice. We follow teachers for safe guidelines, but recognize that any offering that a teacher gives is an offering. It's simply a suggestion. It is, a pathway to follow if it feels right for you. But it's not a requirement, it's not a necessity. So just keep that in mind. Embrace your differences and don't ever conform to yoga. Yoga will conform to you. All right, a few more rounds of breath there. And whenever you feel ready, well, once again, find that activation in the feet. So lift up through the toes, press into the feet. Let the shins press forward, and then set the toes down. And then with that activation, with that puffing up of the chest, lift the hips just high enough to slide that prop out from underneath. And exhale, one vertebrae at a time. Slowly set down. Ooh, that feels good. Awesome work. And from here, draw the knees in towards the chest. A little tuck through the tailbone to lengthen through the spine might feel really good to kind of neutralize through the spine from the back bending we just did. Some rocking side